What is up guys, Andy Forestine Runner here, and today we're talking all about the Asics NOVABLAST and how it's holding up after 200 miles. For me, this is a pretty special shoe. And for those of you who watched the video after 100 miles to get the update on how this thing was holding out, I promised you guys an update after 150 or 200 miles. And I asked you in the comments which one you would prefer to see. And a lot of you said 150 miles, a lot of you said 200 miles. Well, to be perfectly honest with you, during lockdown, mileage has been pretty good. I've been able to get some good block of training in, and I'm happy to report that I now have 207 miles in this shoe. So I thought I'd give you guys a quick update on the shoe, how it's holding out. Am I going to be taking it any further now we've got all these other shoes to test, and what my overall thoughts are on the Asics NOVABLAST. So if you're excited for today's video guys, make sure you give it a like, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel for weekly running content, and without further ado we'll start with the wear and tear. So if you've seen any of my videos on this shoe, you'll know just how much I absolutely love this thing. It's been an absolute staple in my training, and I'll be perfectly honest with you, it's the shoe I've been gravitating towards every single run. And quite frankly, when I've been testing other shoes, I've been a bit begrudging the fact that I'm having to wear those over this thing. I honestly would have over 300 miles in this thing by now if I hadn't been testing other shoes, but it's only fair to give other shoes a chance. But I've got to say, so far, hands down, this shoe is 2020 shoe of the year so far. It's going to take something pretty special to beat this thing. Anyway, we digress. Onto the wear and tear of the shoe. So overall, the shoe is holding up really well. I'll hold it to you here. You can see the upper. We have just pretty much an upper that looks exactly the same as when we bought it. A little bit dirtier, a little bit more scuffed, but overall looking really solid. No holes, no signs of wear and tear in the upper material there. The only sign of wear and tear I'm getting at the moment in the shoe, and it's only this shoe, if you can see at the back of the heel here, we have the tiniest hole in the fabric appearing there. That's it. After 200 miles, I will take that, to be perfectly honest with you. The lacing has been perfect. It's a shoe that I got a lockdown fit in straight away. Never had any problems with any slippage in the shoe, any problems with foot issues. The only people this shoe doesn't seem to suit are people with narrower feet. It does have a very roomy toe box, and that's good in this weather. We're moving into some very warm weather at the moment, and despite the fact that this thing has quite a thick overlay with a couple of layers of engineered mesh here, it is still relatively breathable, and with the wider toe box it does allow my feet to splay on my runs and sweat and swell, and it's all good. It doesn't even smell that bad either. So that's a great thing from the top half of the shoe. But what about the midsole? This was the question that everyone was wondering. This is the question that I had. Was I going to jinx the shoe again like I did with the Rincon? After 150 miles, I said the Rincon is doing amazing, and then bam, the midsole flattened out like a pancake, gave me aches and pains, and sadly just took away that little bit of a shine from an absolutely incredible shoe. Well, I'm happy to report that this thing is 200 plus miles and going strong. The midsole has literally lost the tiniest bit of pop, literally the tiniest bit of pop. I've been testing the New Balance Tempo this week. I've put this thing back on today to get the over 200 miles, and the bounce down the road, it was so noticeable. So I'm happy to say that it's still there. And actually, you look at a lot of midsoles these days and you see a lot of crinkles and things appearing in the midsoles. They start to compress. As you can see, it's barely showing any signs of wear and tear. We've had discussions in the comments and some of you have suggested if Asics took this midsole and put a racing upper on it and put a carbon plate in here, the next percent can say bye-bye, because this thing would be an absolute game killer. And in terms of the outsole, again, just showing no signs of wear and tear. The only signs that I'm getting a little bit of wear is on the toe off up here. Just a little bit of the rubber starting to wear down a bit. But on the whole, as you can see, still looking pretty new. Again, I think we've got a tiny bit of wear and tear on the heel there, getting a bit flat. That's just where I'm getting sloppy and lazy with my form going down hills. But on the whole, I'm predominantly a mid-foot, forefoot striker, and it's all looking good to me. So in terms of wear and tear, after 200 miles, it's holding up amazing. So now we've covered the wear and tear, let's answer a couple of questions. What have I been using this shoe? Will I be using it moving forwards? How have I been using it? I've been using it in pretty much everything. If you saw the 10x400 meter video that I released earlier this week, I should say, I used a Novablast. It was absolutely phenomenal. If I wanted to use it a day for tempos, intervals, long slow runs, steady runs, general daily miles, there's not a day where I would look down and think of a run and go, yeah, no, the Novablast, it's not going to suit the Novablast. It covers everything. I'm going to try not to gush too much about the shoe because I've done that in previous videos. Too much. But I've got to say this thing is a jack of all trades and it does it well. Sometimes you find a gem of a shoe and sometimes you just want to keep hold of it. Yes, we've got a lot of shoes in for testing at the moment, but I've got to say this is the one that I am wanting to use the most, even after 200 miles. We've done a couple of 20-mile runs in this thing, or 18 and 20 miles since my 100-mile review. We've done even more steady 10 to 12 mile runs. As I said, we've done the interval work. I'm going to be doing some more tempo work in this thing coming up, which kind of alludes on to the point which we'll get to. Will I be using it moving forwards? And it's basically done a little bit of everything. Now, will I be using it forwards? Yes, I will. I'm going to take this thing. I think I'm going to take this thing as far as I can take it. I think I am going to. I've been toying with the idea in my head of trying to shelve this shoe to get more miles in the 1080 version 10 in some of the other shoes, but to be perfectly honest with you, there's not another shoe that I want to run in other than this thing. And you know, I'm putting 60 miles a week into my training at the moment, which is quite high for me. I'm using lockdown as a good time to do a bit of base building and now moving into some 10k training. This thing is just withstanding every single thing I throw at it, and I'm really considering getting a second pair, because despite the fact that I do test a lot of running shoes, sometimes all those shoes I just don't find work for me, or I don't really want to take them past 100 miles, or I get to 100 miles and think, phew, I'm glad I've got to 100 miles in that shoe, I'm not interested in going any further. This thing I just want to take until it burns out. So yes, I'm going to be taking this thing as far as I can. Granted, progress will now get slower as I have more shoes in to test, and I will be rotating my shoes a little bit more because I do want to get a few more miles in the 1080 version 10, but this thing will be used at least once a week, if not twice a week. And I guarantee you we'll get to at least 300 miles in this thing, hopefully well above and beyond. So there we go. I hope that answers your question. I know in the beginning the midsole in this thing was a big question mark. It was for me, of course, a big question mark. When you get such a beauty of a midsole like this, you do tend to question its durability. Is it going to last the distance? Of course, with the Rincon and for me the Peg Turbo 2, those things flattened out so quickly, and I've got to say that getting to 200 miles in this has been so easy. It's just been effortless to just put this thing on and clock up the miles in it, and I really do struggle to run slowly in this thing. I'm doing a lot of steady miles at the moment, not so many easy miles. My easy days are being replaced a little bit by steady miles. That's another topic which I will talk about at some point, but this thing just eats up the miles, and to be perfectly honest with you, the midsole is holding up really well. I really value the fact that you guys have requested me to update this, because I know on my initial videos I raved about it and went to town on how amazing this shoe was, and loads of you guys have bought it off the back of my videos, and that makes me it blows my mind that you value my opinion that much, that you'll go out and buy a shoe based on what I have said. Honestly, thank you. It's awesome, and I really should have charged commission somehow for Asics. Asics needs to pay me back with another fresh pair of Novablast. But all jokes aside, I hope you guys are getting on with the Novablast. I'd love to hear if you did end up buying the shoe, how many miles have you got in it so far, and how is it holding up for you? I know a few of you have got more than 200 miles in the shoe already. which is great. If you have, leave a comment in the description below and let others know what you're up to. If you've only just got the shoe and excited to put more miles in it, again, tell everyone. Let's share our stories of how we're getting on with this absolutely incredible shoe, and let's hope and keep our fingers crossed that Asics do something special next year when it comes to releasing more shoes with this Flight Foam Blast midsole. As I said in the beginning, take this midsole, strip off the top, nice lightweight racing upper, carbon plate, you've got an absolute gem of a racing shoe right there. So there we go, 200 miles in the Novablast. As I said, let me know in the comments below how you're getting on with it. That's it for today, guys. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you give it a like, share with your friends, subscribe to the channel for weekly running content, and as always, I will see you on the next one. Until then,